Hey, it's Angela Yee. Searching for the perfect new lipstick? Look no further than the new Spike Valentino Buttery Matte Lip Color with 10-hour comfort and a non-drying matte finish. Spike Valentino is that girl. With gold aluminum packaging fully embossed with Maison Valentino signature studs. And can you hear that magnetic click? Discover the 12 shades in vibrant nudes and pops of color from couture in the streets to its Valentino, baby.
Thursday Night Football is back.
Touchdown.
And it's on Prime Video.
Such a game changer.
It all kicks off this Thursday with the Buffalo Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins in an AFC East showdown with football's best party, TNF tonight. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial today. It's the Bills and the Dolphins, Thursday, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Welcome to a week 2 edition of Giants Hangouts brought to you by Crestron, Madelyn Burke, Russ Salzberg, and Brandon London hanging out. And guys, we have heard the discourse. We have heard the disappointment of the week 1 win. And like Dexter Lawrence said, it's time to flush it. Let's look forward and henceforth, because the Giants are not the only team that were disappointed in week 1. Half the league took a loss. And one of the things I want to point out from the game on Sunday, though, is the bright spot of the rookies. This draft class played pretty well. I mean, you saw Darius Muasa, the linebacker out of UCLA, getting his first career interception. You saw Drew Phillips forcing a fumble. You saw Malik Neighbors getting some big catches. You saw the safety, Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, making some plays. Brandon, when you look at the way that the youth of this team made an impact in week 1, what does that say to you?
Well, I mean, I think it's great. I think that means that you got to give credit to the coaching staff for getting them prepared throughout the course of training camp. And Russ, everyone always talks about training camp that's getting softer and teams aren't looking as good. Yeah, that's the starters maybe because they're getting limited reps in game action. But these rookies, they're the ones that's playing a lot of special teams reps. They're the ones that's getting the second half of these games or playing the majority of these preseason games, because not only are they trying to make a team, they're trying to make a name for themselves within the roster. So those are Giants rookies all stepped in and gave some sort of significant contribution. And that just goes to show that, you know, they were prepared and they made plays throughout the practices and throughout training camp. And, you know, again, like you said, we're leading this off. It was a bright spot from what we saw on Sunday.
Well, listen, guys, I tend to agree with you about the bright spot and seeing it from the young guys. But like, as we say, you know, the hip bone's connected to the thigh bone is connected to the knee bone, and onward we go. They all got to do it together. You know, when Madelyn said, you know, want to look at the positives, and Dexter said, let's just flush it down. I agree with that. I think much too much was made of, it was a collective bad game. You know, I mean, the rookies look good, but you can't shine when you're getting smacked around. It just looks bad on everybody. So to me, you know, whether they're talking about Daniel Jones or this part of the game, it's one game. I mean, you know, it's like in baseball, not that it's a baseball team, but like sometimes when your pitching goes south and your hitting's not there, what happens? You end up looking bad. You know, usually when you get smacked around, that's what happens. I agree. I think we just got to move forward. There's a lot of the rookies can play as well. You know, that's all fine and good, but everybody's got to play well, because the rookies are still going to look up to the veterans, and the veterans have to do the job. Everybody's got to do the job. It was week 1. It's gone. Now we have to go to week 2, but we do have to see a great deal of improvement. I think some of the criticism has been way over the top. You would think Daniel Jones is like, he's the poster boy for getting whipped around. I mean, I think it's just over the top. And people were criticizing that. And Brandon, you're around the guys. You're in that locker room. They were criticizing Brandon. No, you're Brandon. They were criticizing Daniel before the season even started. So let's chalk it up for a bad game and move forward.
Yeah. Well, and it's also too, who amongst us isn't entitled to having a bad day or an off day? The problem becomes when those off days or those bad days become the regular. consistency. So this is just week 1. And there are, like I said, there are several teams around the league that would like to have that game back, that would look at the way that they performed on week 1 and say, this isn't the identity that we want to have for ourselves this season. You know, I was talking to Sean O'Hara on the post-game show after the game, and he said, hey, I was a part of a team that won a Super Bowl that started a season 0-2. Not saying that this is a Super Bowl team, but saying that things can be turned around. This isn't college football where you lose one game and your season is over. This is the National Football League. It's a long season. There are 18 weeks. And there's a lot to be remedied. And, you know, the coaches and the players all had the same message after that game. It was like, hey, this is not who we want to be. We want to turn this around, and we're going to get back to the drawing board. Week 2, an opponent in Washington Commanders, they're also coming off a loss in week 1. You know, they fell 37-20 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, you know, you've got Jaden Daniels, the rookie quarterback out there in Washington, who was teammates with Malik Neighbors. The two of them have a lot of competitive spirit about having the better performance between the two of them. But also for Daniel Jones, this is almost a get-right game in the best possible way, because Washington is a team that Daniel Jones has played very well against in his career. He has won 5 of his 7 starts against the Commanders. As a player, Brandon, is there some sort of juice when you know that there's a team or a logo or a jersey that you just happen to have your best games against? Does that boost your confidence a little bit?
Absolutely, because this is the longest week, I feel like, in NFL football, when you come off of a home loss opener and you're going up against a team where you feel like you can get right against. It's the one where you're putting in, because you're putting in a little bit more extra work. You're staying a little bit longer, you're opening the book, or you're spending a little bit more of being a little bit more attentive during the walkthrough, a little bit more, but not too much, because it's like we've flushed it to bed already. The game plan is in for Washington. You're getting ready for an exciting matchup against a Jaden Daniels who, didn't throw the ball that well and completed the ball in terms of completion percentage, but he ran the ball well. You look at Austin Eckler with 16 carries, Brian Robinson Jr. 12 carries. We're going up against the Commanders team that's going to try and control the clock, control the game against the New York Giants. And for Daniel Jones in that pass game, there's some get right within that Commanders secondary where they're already benching their first round pick, Emmanuel Forbes. There's a lot going on within that secondary right now. So it's a game where you hope that Brian Dable kind of lets his hair on fire and, you know, puts 4 receiver sets out there, 3 receiver sets out there, and kind of open up some space to throw the ball for the receivers that we saw make plays throughout training camp and really let this thing fly. So it's you're ready for it, because you know you've had success within this team before, and you know that you're not the product that was out there that last Sunday. But that's why you love the NFL so much, because each week has its own story, right, Russ?
Yeah, you know, Brandon, you said a mouthful when you said it's the longest week, because especially when you get hammered, as happened to the Giants, the longest week. Let me tell you, and I'm not a player, I was tired by Monday morning. That's how long it seemed, you know, and here we are at Wednesday. You know, quite frankly, I can't wait to watch the guys this afternoon at practice, because I want to see that edge coming on. I want to see, you know, the chin straps tight. I want to see everybody ready to go, which I'd be shocked if that's not the case. I think, like, as you say, you want to flush it out. Let's get going, moving forward. You know, Dable's going to get asked all the questions about last week. And, you know, Dave's is going to say, no, we're thinking about this week. That's done. Let's move forward. And especially when you get hammered, you can't wait to get going and see that next opponent. You want to be hungry for it. So, I agree with you on that. 100%. Let's get rocking right now.
There's no better place to watch live TV this fall than Hulu Plus Live TV. Why? Because you get your favorite sports like football, local channels, shows, and so much more. Plus, get Hulu's entire streaming library with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus included with your plan. No long-term contracts or hidden fees. Don't wait. Start your 3-day free trial of Hulu Plus Live TV today. Live TV plan required. Access content from each service separately. Offer valid for new and eligible returning subscribers only if available. Terms and restrictions apply. Learn more at hulu.com.
And because, Madelyn, it's like no one's jumping off the Titanic right now, because it is the one game, and it was all the hype around the game. But as you guys know, there's 3 courses or 3 seasons within the season, and the really good teams that have already had it together for a while, they get the fast starts, or the surprise team, they get the fast starts. And then it's that middle part of the season where it's you get the good momentum or the bad momentum. And then it's the last half, the last third of it, to where it's how do you finish? How are you going to finish? Are you limping into the playoffs? Are you limping out of the playoffs? Or you're the hot team, the it team that's going into the playoffs with some fire and with some gas. So right now it's just, all right, how do you get this start together? You don't want to fall too much into a hole in terms of that beginning third of the season. So this is an opportunity for the guys, and they all know that. Everyone within the building, everyone out there practicing, everyone dealing with the tickets to the helmets and the gear, equipment. Everyone knows what this game means. So it's the time to like get out there and really get a sneaky win per se, because it's not a primetime game. Not everyone's eyes are on you.
You know, Madeline, you said something, and I was glad you brought it up, that what Sean O'Hara said, that he was on a Super Bowl team that lost its first two games and will lose in the third game. And if I remember correctly, that third game happened to be in Washington, D.C. That defense, that great defense that the Giants had, what was supposed to be terrific, and they looked awful the first two games. They were getting hammered. I mean, one game was against Green Bay. I forget what the score was, but they were giving up a lot of points. They might have given up 80
like
points.
Over 500 total.
Yeah. You're right, Brandon. And in the third game, I believe they were losing 16-3 at halftime or in the third quarter. I mean, it looked bleak, and then everything got turned around. That's why, Bill Parcells always would say there are three things that can beat you: the opponent, division within, and the media. That's what he used to say. And it's tenfold now with social media and everything else. So if you don't let that creep in and you just stick to your business, worry about your opponent, make sure there's no division within, which that is not the case with the Giants, because you people are just like me in that locker room. I've seen a very together group of guys, a very together group of guys. For lack of, I don't want to use the wrong language, they're all ticked off. And they're all going to be ticked off together. I'm sure when they came in Monday and they come in today, they're all going to be the same thing as let's move on and let's get going. I think so. If they take care of business, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think that this is a group of players and men who are very competitive and who do not feel defined by that game, and do not feel that that game is who they want their identity to be as individuals or as a team, in what we saw in week one. And, sometimes September football can be a little sloppy. We've seen it time and time again coming into the year, especially as preseason games are more focused on some of the guys trying to make a roster instead of some of the guys trying to ramp up for the season. So, the hope and the optimism is pointing towards, okay, can this team turn it around, get on track, and become the team that we expect them to be? And, we've been out at practice watching this team install their offense and run their defense. And one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that all summer we have seen Brian Daboll kind of dialing up the long passes, the big plays, airing out the ball. We didn't see a lot of that in week one. And I'm curious if, that's something that you kind of pilfer in during a season. And Brandon, maybe you could speak to this as well. Or if you expect to see more of it in week two, or what your expectations are of translating what we've watched during training camp in the summer to the field.
I'm going to manage my expectations, Madeline, because what we've seen when it comes to kind of teams trying to check the deep ball when it comes to the Giants offense, they're in a too high shell. They got safeties over the top, and it's hard for Daniel to want to kind of feel comfortable in trying to throw that ball up there with Harrison Smith over the top, or, the safeties over the top. And I think it was the joint practice with the Jets. They did a lot of that. They did a lot of too high and a lot of, like deep safety type things. So that took away from the shot. I think it's just one of those things where you have to continue to be patient when it comes to it. So it's like manage your expectations, because now that blueprint is out there, and we're talking about a Commanders defense that was just absolutely giving it up against the Buccaneers, especially on third down. They went 9 for 13 in terms of third down efficiency. Baker Mayfield did against the Commanders defense. They're able to throw the ball for 280 and then rush for a $112. Like you look at, if the Giants can hit on that type of quality of offense with that type of balance that as they have in the past, then here's that again, that's that get right game. Not only stat wise, but just in terms of getting the offense, getting our juice together, feeling like, all right, we took a step forward after this game. Right, Russ?
Yeah. And Madeline, I think everybody would agree with what your comment was. We all expected to see a lot more downfield passing, but it's like, again, everything is connected. And I think collectively as a team, they never got into a rhythm. They just could not get into a rhythm. And listen, your offensive linemen are going to tell you, if you can't establish the run game, that's not going to help the pass game. So just everything, it just collectively, that's what happened. And I do think you're going to see a lot more of that downfield passing, I think, but it's all got to work together. When I say rhythm, it just, as I'm watching the entire game, there was no rhythm to it. People were using the term skittish. I don't know if the word is skittish. I just think when you're not playing with rhythm, you're also not playing with confidence. And then, the fans and everything. So, you know what? Maybe it's also a good thing for them, Brandon and Madeline, that they are on the road this week. Let's go clear our heads, go out. Listen, you always want to play in front of the home crowd, but let's now go out, take care of business, and do it on the road in a place, as you brought out, Madeline, that they've been successful the past few years with Daniel doing it.
Yeah,
Madeline, can I want to piggyback off of that. Can I piggyback off of that real quick? Because, the rhythm is Malik Neighbors. As we saw throughout training camp and every time, you can get him a hit here, you can throw him a curl here. You're going to have to take a shot with him and give him that 50-50 ball chance, because if he comes down with one, especially at home, they're away this week, but last week, if he would have he would have had an opportunity to come down with a 50-50 ball. That's the rhythm. That's the spark. We've seen it. When he doesn't get that deep throw target, then that Giants offense doesn't kick and doesn't hit like it's supposed to, and like we saw. Sorry to jump in, Madeline.
No, not at all. And it's also, too, like you said, it inspires the crowd as well. You hear them chanting "leak," and that's the kind of chants we want to hear from this Giants crowd.
Yeah, but you know what? It's not even just Malik, Brandon. It's a very good point that you made. For all the criticism that I've been reading and hearing about since Sunday, for all of it, I opened up the papers this morning, same thing. Everybody's talking about Daniel didn't do this and Daniel didn't do that. And I don't want to pick on anybody, but you know what? There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drop passes. Nobody talks about that. That's just what Brandon's talking about. It's a rhythm. It's a collective rhythm. If Leak is making a play, if Slayton, all of them, everybody's got to make the plays with 5 drops. Now, I'm not saying if those drops were 5 catches, it was going to be a win for the Giants, but it could have been a completely different outcome. Certainly, it wouldn't have been as bad. So, it's all got to work together.
There's no better place to watch live TV this fall than Hulu Plus Live TV. Why? Because you get your favorite sports like football, local channels, shows, and so much more. Plus, get Hulu's entire streaming library with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus included with your plan. No long-term contracts or hidden fees. Don't wait. Start your 3-day free trial of Hulu Plus Live TV today. Live TV plan required. Access content from each service separately. Offer valid for new and eligible returning subscribers only if available. Terms and restrictions apply. Learn more at hulu.com.
No, that's totally valid. And it's, it's easy to say from a layman's term of like, okay, let's put the blame on the quarterback, the front man of the team, and it's, yes. And he will stand at that podium and say, I should have played better. Just like Brian Dable will stand at the podium and say, I should have coached better. But realistically, it's a team sport. It's 11 on 11, not 1 on 1. And so we'll see how this team turns it around week 2. But not just a team that Daniel Jones has had success against, but also a division team. And so this is a game that holds more weight than just a, out of conference or out of division matchup with the Vikings. When you're going against the Washington Commanders, a team that you're going to see twice this year, having the opportunity to get right against that game, Russ, that's got to hold a little bit extra motivation for this locker room that I know is eager to get back on the football field on Sunday.
Well, when it's a division opponent, the game always takes on more meaning. So listen, coming off an ugly loss, wanting to get yourselves right on the road against a division foe. I mean, it's all there. I mean, they don't need motivation. If they need motivation, then there is something bad wrong. They don't need any motivation. That all they have to do is look in the mirror and say, how proud am I? How proud am I to be a Giant? How proud am I to be wearing this uniform? Well, if I am, let me go out and do something about it and help my team win.
Right.
Yeah. That whole motivation thing is like a media narrative. That's something to put out there because if you're in the, it's forget it doesn't even have to be a Division 4 or a team like the Washington Commanders. It's just football in general. You're getting paid to go play football, and you love the game. You want to go out there and go out there and smash heads or make plays. This is just an opportunity to go out there and really just kind of recreate not only a team narrative, but a narrative about yourself too. I have another opportunity. I'm blessed with another opportunity to play the game, be within it, make plays with my teammates and all. And then you just see what goes from there. That's the super cool part about it as well.
Yeah.
If you can block the noise.
Right. And maybe motivation is the wrong word. Maybe it's more momentum, right? Because
Yeah.
it's getting a win in the win column, but in a win that holds more weight, that gives you a little bit more oomph in terms of the value of it in the season.
Yeah, but you're maybe we're splitting hairs with the words, but you're not going to get momentum unless you have something to build that momentum on.
Right.
The momentum that they have to get momentum right now coming off last week is their own pride.
Right.
Because they're not coming off momentum with that performance. So they have to look within themselves and their own pride. And it's got to start in practice and it's got to start today.
Yeah. All right. When you're looking at this game, Giants Commanders week 2 at Washington, a 1 p.m. Sunday matchup. What is your point of emphasis, Russ? If you're out there on this field and you're looking at this team, and you're saying, this is what I need from you this week in this matchup to come out ahead.
Well, to me, the offensive line, and we'll talk about this in particular. We know about Thomas. We're talking about Runyon, Illuminar, Van Roten. I need to establish the run. If I'm going to establish the run, then it's going to aid me in the pass, and it's going to aid me in doing, Madelyn, what you brought up, and Brandon, I think you would agree, throwing that ball downfield. If you can't establish the run, then you're going to have a problem. So to me, they have to establish the run. If they establish the run, then I'll use that word rhythm. Then they can get into a rhythm, and then, as Brandon said, then they can look for Leak to go long. They can look for the other guys. And you know what? If they can establish that, we're also going to get to see Daniel both passing and running the ball. So, it's got to start up front.
I'm going to say the corners, Tay Banks, Nick McLeod, all Dory Jackson, he gets in there, how much he gets in there. I'm going to say you can't let Terry McLaurin, who only went 2 catches, 17 yards last week. Great job by the Buccaneers defense kind of bottling him up. You can't let any of those receivers get going because you're dealing with a young quarterback who the threat with his legs is already something you're worried about going up against this Giants defense. But if he's hitting on the outsides, not only to McLaurin, but to other guys like Luke McCaffrey, and getting Austin Eckler and those guys involved, if he's feeling confident throwing the football, then that's going to be something. It's going to be a long afternoon for the Giants defense. So when they do take that shot and that defensive pass interference, I'll argue that every day of the week for Dory Jackson. But when they do take that shot, it's got to be incomplete or a pick. It can't be any sort of yardage off of miraculous catch off the 50-50 ball, nor any sort of defensive penalty, because that's what sparked the Vikings offense on that. Otherwise, the Giants defense was playing with a turnover and confidence up into that part. So I would say that the secondary, particularly the corners, they got to play big this week and step up.
Brandon, I'm glad you brought up that point about the Adoree, the pass interference, because that's something we haven't touched on yet. How one play, Madelyn, you were talking about momentum. How one play that could have changed. I'm not saying Giants would have won a game, but if that play doesn't go for pass interference, then the momentum shifts to the Giants, and then they're feeling real good and confident. It goes the other way, and then you saw what happened, and then they're going in for a touchdown. So, that one play, again, I don't want to put the entire performance, but since we were talking on that one play, the loss. But when we talk about momentum, that's a perfect example of what momentum can do for you if you get the right play or if it goes against you.
Right. And that was a tough play too, because you look at it, you watch the replay, you got a Dory Jackson and Jordan Addison, and it could go either way. OPI, DPI, there's some contact that's fair. Obviously the official called it for defensive pass interference. Dory and all of the defensive backs did not agree. And it's tough, but sometimes the calls don't go your way. But I think if I'm looking at this game, you got to clean it up. 9 penalties for 95 yards. That's the length of the field right there.
Look at it. I look at it, that penalty. I look at it from the other side. I look at the football guys rewarding your offense for taking a shot early to your LSU receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like he threw it down the field, so terrible things can happen and just throwing it up in that situation. But a lot of the times a dynamic receiver like a Justin Jefferson, a Malik Neighbors, they deserve that type of ball. And then if not only do they not come down, if let's say they don't come down with it, and it's a drop, you can catch it for deep or you can get the defensive pass interference. And again, like Giants didn't even put themselves in that position to take that shot. But it could also go the other way, but it just depends on the momentum and the flow of the game. So I look at that. There's an importance. They got rewarded for taking that shot early.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes on Sunday. Giants heading to the nation's capital, taking on the Washington Commanders at 1 p.m. on Sunday as the 100th season continues. And we are here every week with a new episode of Giants Hangouts. I'm Madelyn Burke with Russ Salzberg and Brandon London. Thanks for hanging out with us. Giants Hangouts brought to you by Crestron. We'll see you next week.
There's no better place to watch live TV this fall than Hulu Plus Live TV. Why? Because you get your favorite sports like football, local channels, shows, and so much more. Plus, get Hulu's entire streaming library with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus included with your plan. No long-term contracts or hidden fees. Don't wait. Start your 3-day free trial of Hulu Plus Live TV today. Live TV plan required. Access content from each service separately. Offer valid for new and eligible returning subscribers only if available. Terms and restrictions apply. Learn more at hulu.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.